Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. All right, so let's
Bravo needs bacon. Thank you for the 25 bits.
Let's move on to the tweets and
oh boy, I love tweets.
Well, for starters, Brian Holdsworth almost made a good point. He almost said a thing that I agreed with without caveats.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see how this turns
Said,
around.
I'm so tired of the "you're not a real man unless" posts. Obsessively measuring the masculinity of your neighbor is a pretty good sign that... Do you want to guess what two words come next?
Is it going to be "you're gay"?
Nailed it.
God fucking damn it!
Like, as I was reading it, I'm like, yes, if you're obsessed with, like, calling out the masculine real man, you're not a real man unless you... Then I'm like, you are insecure in your masculinity. You're not a real man. Because a real man is secure in his masculinity and doesn't need to tell people that they're not a real man if they don't do blah, 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 blah. Like, I thought that's kind of the direction he was going. Then he's like, you're gay. Like, oh, fucking Brian.
I just want to sit there and ask the obvious question: why am I on the Magic the Gathering screen? That's not where I'm supposed to be.
That is the obvious question. That's the question I thought of too.
So I saw that there was some dust on my stream deck, and I just habitually started cleaning it. And I clicked the Magic the Gathering button that put us all into the different squares. So it's just like I'm now playing a game with Godless Engineer, because that was the last game I did on stream with John.
Yeah.
But I want to respond to each one of these people anytime they say this with, can you articulate why being gay is a bad thing? Well, I didn't say it was a bad thing. It says more about you that you immediately responded to it. No. We're not playing that fucking game. You obviously utilized it as a pejorative. So since you utilized it as a pejorative, I just want you to articulate to me why you think that it should be used as a pejorative. If you don't think it should be used as one, then do you retract your statement? If you don't retract your statement, then let's just sit here. I'm tired of the goalpost shifting. I'm just going to start holding people to the fire until they get incredibly uncomfortable.
Okay. Counterpoint. I have a response for Brian.
Sure. Is it that he's gay?
Oh no, Brian!
Brian, what happened?
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. Oh.
Man. Fennec
is asking, where did you get that hat? I know multiple humans who need one. I think this one was sent to me. I don't remember. So the thing about my hats is because I have ADHD, I often lose them. So like there have been a fair few that like we moved and it's like, oh yeah, this hat, I remember that. So this is one of those.
I don't have hats because I'm insecure about balding, and I know if I have a hat, then I'll wear it because I'm insecure about balding.
Oh, see, I have sensory issues, so I actually fucking hate hats.
And that's why you have so many of them.
That is why I have so many of them. Yep. The things I do for stream.
Something Fishy says by that logic, butch lesbians are the most masculine because they don't think about the masculinity of men at all.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I can see that.
But they're also gay.
They are. There you go. So it tracks. Brian Holdsworth is correct. You heard it from Cirrus. Oh, okay. Oh, Supreme Court of Canada posted on Twitter. It says, "Dear subscribers, moving forward, we will be focusing our communication efforts on other platforms. We invite you to follow us on our LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube accounts to continue receiving our updates. Thank you for your support." So Supreme Court of Canada is now ditching Twitter.
So, no Blue Sky?
No Blue Sky, unfortunately.
Throws phone on the ground?
Well, I mean, to be fair, as much as I respect that they're doing this, finding out about this was literally how I found out that they had a Twitter account in the first place. So, I love that they're doing it. not sure that I care all that much. I just thought it was funny. And the replies to this were just full of people being like, oh, you are refusing to provide the Canadian citizens with the information they need. And it's like, no, man, like if you're going to Twitter for your Supreme Court of Canada news, then you're going to the wrong place.
Yeah,
like,
just get off fucking Twitter.
They have a website. You could you can look up the cases they're looking at anytime you want. You don't need to wait for them to post shit on Twitter. Also, as long as you're talking about them, it would be remiss if I didn't mention that they dress like Santa. Have you seen Canadian Supreme Court justices?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
King Cuddle YouTube, thank you very much for the follow.
Images.
Deez really is my last name. Thank you for resubscribing.
Is your first name Nuts?
Get it? Because that sounds like you're saying these testicles, everybody. And it's funny to say these testicles. In fact, I like saying these testicles all the time. Wieners. Sylvie says, clip that.
Yeah. I'm trying to resize my SCOTUS. No, it's not SCOTUS. It's
Scrotus?
SCOCA. That's the Supreme Court of Canada. They're dressed like little Santas.
Huh. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. They
Merry
abandoned
Christmas.
Twitter. Santa has left Twitter. Fennec says they're adorable. Yep, that they are. Dinesh D'Souza says, if anybody tries to make you feel guilty about the government employees losing their jobs, show them this clip of Jen Psaki in 2021 telling oil pipeline workers to go get green jobs. Couple comments here. There was a clip of the back and forth that she had with her reporter. Couple things here. First off, the press secretary wasn't someone who lost their job in Elon's cuts. It was like the people responsible for like making sure your national parks are taken care of and like administrating, like the administrators of like Medicare, Medicaid, the VA lost a bunch of employees. Like everyday working folk that are just making sure that the government, which is a service provider, is providing services. It's like ultimately that is what the government is. It's a service provider. It is not a business. It does not need to make a profit. They don't need to be 100% efficient in what. So like, actually, I'm gonna take it back a little bit. Like with regards to efficiency, it seems to be just a given that everybody accepts that if you give the same job to either a government or a private company, the private company will do that job more efficiently. Always, 100% of the time.
They cut corners more often.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is that like they won't necessarily do, like they won't do it more efficiently. They will just maximize their profits while they're doing it, which to a businessman that might seem like, oh, that's the efficient way to do it, is to maximize profit. But no, the efficient way to do it is to do the job properly as quickly as possible. So like, for instance, look at something like pollution. A private company, if they're not being regulated, they are just going to pollute the shit out of whatever environment they're working in. Yeah. So you put regulations on, now they have to behave differently or whatever. Whereas like a government company, they have to like they're working on, like they're a service provider on behalf of their constituents or whatever. So they have to think, oh, if I build a factory here, not that the government runs factories necessarily, but like if I'm going to subsidize farmers, I'm not going to subsidize the ones that are polluting the water of the people that vote for me. Sort of thing. Like that's the idea. Obviously that's not how it works out. Like these are way oversimplified examples. But like the most profitable way to do something is not the best way to do something. In fact, a lot of times, as like we're seeing with climate change, it is the worst way to do it. This is like like a lot of the time people are talking about how green energy is so much more expensive. It's expensive to go green. It'd be a hit to the economy because the companies wouldn't be able to afford to like do the necessary changes or whatever. But that's only because we allow them to externalize the costs associated with climate change. If we said, hey, if you are emitting this much carbon into the atmosphere, you have to contribute this much to the healthcare system to pay for the people who need to go to the doctor because of the effects of the pollution, then suddenly it's way more profitable to do things cleanly.
Yeah, because otherwise there's fines associated with it that are really hard to absorb. But even then, to give just a tiny bit of pushback, there are often companies that are willing to just take the fine on the nose because the fine on the nose is
it's a slap
less
on the wrist.
expensive.
Yeah. But not even that. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, Fennec saying, make companies responsible for their waste. Yes, but at the same time, like, one of the biggest, like, one of the biggest contributors to the cost associated with climate change is people that are going to need to go to the doctor for pollution related things. It's not even really climate related. It's just, I live in a coal mining town and I breathe the bad air and drink the bad water. So if we went green, the savings on the healthcare system alone would more than offset the cost of going green by significant amounts. Like, I forget that there have been studies done into this. I forget the exact numbers. It's been a while since I've read them, but like, just looking at the healthcare costs, if you don't allow companies to externalize those costs and you make them pay for it, it becomes much cheaper for them to actually do things cleanly and properly. So like, that is the way the government is supposed to work. It's supposed to impose barriers to doing things efficiently for the sake of making a profit at the expense of people's well-being. The government provides the service of making sure the well-being is taken care of along the way. That's what they're supposed to do. So the idea that the government will always do things worse is just like, no, that's just not true. They're not supposed to do things profitably. They're supposed to do things to serve their constituents. But also, if you actually watch the clip that he posted with this, which I didn't download it because it's kind of long and boring, but like, she doesn't tell oil pipeline workers to go get green jobs. She was asked, like, hey, when the Keystone Pipeline was canceled, a bunch of people lost their job. Is there a job available for them now? And so her answer to that was, it was a political answer, yes, but it was like very much like in Biden's, what was it, the budget that he passed that had the all the climate change stuff in it. I forget what it was called, but like that thing that he passed, it had like the amount of it was an infrastructure bill or whatever, but the amount of infrastructure that was in green fields or whatever was more than enough to make up for those that were lost due to oil pipelines. Yeah, it's true that like someone working on an oil pipeline can't necessarily transition immediately to like installing solar panels. Those are two different skill sets. But no, it wasn't the Green New Deal. That was
Green New Deal is like way old.
Yeah, I mean, he did take some ideas from the Green New Deal, but not as many as he should have, if I'm honest. But yeah, no, it was. So basically, it was like, yeah, no, the jobs have been lost here, but they have been made up for over here. Like, that was the answer. It wasn't, if you lost your job, go get a green job. Like, that's not what she said, even though that's what he says she said. And yeah, offering training into green industries would be what I suggest. And I think there was some budget for that.
Cheney says, was it Build Back Better?
No, that was just his slogan. I forget what it was called. Inflation Reduction Act. That's the one. Thank you. Also known as the IRA. Let's get the bombs out.
Sounds spooky.
Do you not know what the IRA was?
Offhand, no.
It's do you know the drink that you can order at a bar called the Irish Carbomb?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the I in IRA stands for Irish, and they might be the reason why that drink is called what it is. It's the Irish Republican Army.
Oh, okay.
This is back in the 80s, like U2's song Bloody Sunday about violence.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is fun. So Ryan Peterson says, why is this plane not flying in a straight line? With a flight going from San Francisco to Houston, to which Elon Musk replies, it should be. Because he doesn't know that the Earth is a globe, apparently.
I guess. He's kind of an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, like, weather patterns that they have to, like, there's a whole mountain range here that it has to get around. So, like,
trying to dodge a cloud.
Or dodge a mountain. Like, yeah, you can go over the mountains, but, like, the mountains impact how the air flows. So, like, if you're looking for the faster moving air to help you go to your destination faster or whatever, you might go off track a little bit. So, like, it's a combination of the Earth is a sphere and weather. And, like, he just doesn't, he's like, no, it should be going straight.
It could be going straight if you're not looking at it on a topographical map.
The guy in charge of launching fucking satellites into space is flirting with flat eartherism.
And this reminds me of when Aaron Ra had a flat earth debate where he just sat the guy down effectively and said, okay, here is a flight log. Here is what you describe as an impossible flight.
Oh, is that the one that goes nonstop from South America to Australia?
I don't remember which one it was,
South America
long
to
it was.
Africa or something. I forget which one it is, but was literally playing Where the Streets Have No Name on guitar as Rhino mentioned Sunday Bloody Sunday. Okay. Elon Musk again says, if any judge anywhere can block every presidential order everywhere, we do not have a democracy. We have a tyranny of the judiciary.
No. Yes, the fuck we do. We have a democracy because that is a checks and balance, Mr. Dumb fuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tyranny would be when a president can just do whatever the fuck he wants without judicial review.
Yeah, no, like you need judicial review, you need congressional approval. This is why the president can veto bills that Congress puts forward. This is why the president is able to do what he can do in regards to the justice system. This is why the justice system is able to veto shit that the president does. And this is why Congress can overrule shit that the president tries to put forward. There is a reason all of that is theoretically available. Obviously, the powers of Congress and the powers of the courts have been waning over time, but that stuff exists solely so that we actually have a series of checks and balances. In theory.
In theory. But if nobody sues, or if they sue and get a Trump-appointed judge...
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah. So Family Policy Alliance posted this video. I saved this video, so we can listen to that.
Follow the science they tell us and everything, except when it comes to life. Science tells us life begins at conception. Follow the science.
What? When? How? When? What? How?
So here's my thing. Oh, apparently that one was echoey. Let me try that again. Oop. Do you need me to try it again, or did you hear what he said?
I heard it just fine.
Yeah, no, wrong button. I know you did, but they were hearing double.
Follow the science. When it comes to life, science tells us life begins at conception. Follow the science.
Yeah, basically it just says follow the science. Science says life begins at conception. And yeah, so there's a couple things here. Is that from the perspective of the cell is technically alive, yes, life is present at conception, but it actually begins before conception because your goddamn sperm and egg cells are alive. So life begins at the formation of the sperm and egg cells.
Life begins at the moment that I scrape it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what science says. And science also says that the brain doesn't even begin developing the parts that are capable of containing a consciousness until the third trimester. So like first two trimesters, there ain't no consciousness there. It's a cum-drenched egg that is growing. And so, yeah, no, like, now, when they say life, what they mean is when like, I could see the argument from it is a unique human life, in that, like, it now has its own DNA. It's got a genome that is distinct from its parents. But like, that's not how we define life. That's just DNA. And
Yeah,
like,
that's just a thing.
but like,
That's just a thing.
like, it's an information containing molecule. That's all it is. Like, until the brain is there, there's no consciousness there. And like, arguably, like, this is there, I might get in some trouble for this one, but the parts of the brain responsible for consciousness don't actually like finish developing until well after the kid is born. So, you know, technically speaking, if you're arguing from a brain development point of view, you could say that abortion's fine up until like maybe a year old, but like, nobody actually says that. And I am not advocating for that here, just to be clear.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about actual baby murder. We talk about hypothetical baby murder, like the 300 million that I shot off before going to bed last night.
I mean, I've been snipped, so they just form and then are reabsorbed.
Your body is metabolizing children. They're right. The left eats babies.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, so it's oh yeah, here we go. Bragwin says some tumors have unique DNA. Yeah. And it's human DNA too. So then Duct Tape Jake says, what about the soul? That's what they actually mean when they say life begins. They think the soul shows up there, except science doesn't say anything about that. So they have to pretend like it's like, oh, unique DNA means there is a soul. Okay. That's not science, though. That's just a baseless claim. You can't, like, until you prove that a soul even exists in the first place, you can't say that it arrives at the same time as the DNA is differentiated. So, yeah, no. If we go with the science, it's about the brain. And the time when 98% of abortions happen, there ain't no brain there. It's fine. And at risk of offending Fennec again, it's a cum-drenched egg.
Yay, cum-drenched eggs.
Okay, so Bragwin saying the Bible literally says that the soul enters the body with the first breath, and Fennec is asking what verse.
It's a little iffy on whether that's the actual interpretation you can pull from it.
So I actually did a bit of a deep dive on the Jewish views of abortion recently. So the Bible doesn't actually say the soul enters the body at first breath.
Yeah, it just
that
says
is
that
that is an
God
interpretation
gave the
of
breath
the
of life.
like when God breathed into Adam's nose the breath of life. It is taken, like, by some sects of Judaism, it is taken to mean that that is when the soul enters the body at the breath of life. There is a part in the Bible where like the fine is like, there's a monetary fine, and it's a different monetary fine for if you kill like if you cause a woman to miscarry, it's a different monetary fine than if you like actually kill someone or whatever. Like, it is a monetary fine instead of you are stoned or whatever. I forget the specifics, but basically, like, the Bible has a value for a fetus, and it is less than the value of a full-blown human being. There's also the passage in Numbers that describes the test for an unfaithful wife, which if she has cheated on her husband and become pregnant by another man, the result of that test will be an abortion that is performed by God as part of this ritual. Yep. So the Bible contains instructions on how to perform an abortion in a very specific scenario. It has a different value for a fetus than for a actual person. And then there's also, in different sects of Judaism, there's actually disagreement about when the soul enters the body. There are some people that believe it's at conception. There's another group that believe it's 40 days after conception. There's another group that believe it happens at birth. There's another thought, or I'm saying group as if these are distinct people. It's like The word is escaping me. I'm sick. I can't think properly. But there's another
like a sect.
No, it's not sect. Is it like,
or is it just like a school of thought?
School of thought. There we go. There's another school of thought that the soul doesn't enter your body until the bar and bat mitzvah. Then there's a whole another category where we have two different kinds of soul. There's the animal soul, which is just what distinguishes live meat from dead meat. And then there's the intellectual soul. That is how you connect with God. That is you are a person soul. And so there are people like, oh, well, the animal soul enters at conception, but the intellectual soul enters at 40 days after. And like all those same divisions, there's like same thing happens. So like when you're born, that's when you get the animal soul, but then you get the rest of your soul when you have your bar or bat mitzvah, or like you can mix and match it or whatever. So like it is not a clear cut, the Bible says no abortion. And like you'll notice Christians always go to the Old Testament for it. So this is why I feel like appealing to Jewish tradition is warranted, because like their whole thing is arguing about the meaning of the text. Like in Judaism, if you cannot find a new interpretation for a text, that text is considered dead. So you are supposed to be hunting through the text to find new meanings for things. And so the fact that there are these different schools of thought that have survived over the years is basically comes down to like, there is no clear answer. It can mean different things depending on how you interpret both the Bible and some of the Midrash and other stuff. So yeah, basically all this to say that the Bible doesn't actually have a firm stance on abortion. And if you want to impose a stance on abortion on it, the test for an unfaithful wife basically says pro, at least in one very specific scenario.
Yeah, it's the closest you're able to get to an actual stance there. But the breath of life one, I tend to come down on only because I used to use that one a lot myself as an argument, and I got corrected by people who knew the verse better than I did. The last thing that I want, especially if you're trying to be like an atheist advocate, is for you to fall into the same trap that I did with it. That's never a fun thing when the person who's being a bigot is the correct one in the conversation. That's never fun.
Okay. So I'm going to, so I did a response video to a channel. I forget what it was called. It was a fairly small channel. Guy looked like Jesus. But he did a response to my response video, which I'm just going to leave it alone. Because like most of my response would just be to reiterate things that I said in that video that he cut out of it. Because that's how they roll or whatever. But there was a segment on abortion. This was actually the one that I did all this research for or whatever. And at one point I acknowledged that, like, you know what? If you are actually correct that the soul enters the body at conception, and you believe that abortion is murder as a result of that, like a fertilized egg is a full-blown human, if you are honest about that belief, if that is honestly your belief, that is a difficult position to argue against. If you are correct, then yes, abortion should be illegal. I do not think you are correct. Here's a bunch of reasons why I don't think you're correct. There's still healthcare reasons where, like, again, to take it back to the Jewish tradition, in every single one of those traditions, like there are some that are more liberal with abortion and some that are more conservative, but the most conservative position is the health of the mother comes first. And that includes mental and emotional health. So like if they're not basically the safest option with that is that abortion should be between a woman and her healthcare provider. And there shouldn't be any laws about it. Or like there shouldn't be restrictions on it. So he cut all of that out, including like all of the health effects that are like, I had studies coming up and be like, treatment for this, abortion, treatment for that, abortion, treatment for this, abortion. And if you don't, you could die or whatever. And he just dismissed all of that and skipped right past it just by being like, oh, well, and then he listed some things for which he thinks abortion is the treatment.
So he does his entire thing by just being dishonest. At that point, you just kind of.
So I almost want to, like, if he, if he structured his video the way he did on purpose, he's a genius. He is a comedic genius, because every single thing he accused me of doing in that video, he was doing. Immediately did the thing. He complained that I cut things out of his video, and then he cut a bunch of stuff out of my video. He complained that I didn't cite my sources for something, and he didn't cite his sources for anything. He he had like one source, and it was like Frank Turek's book that he called scholarly. And he tried to go to the original. It was hilarious. He tried to go to the original study that Frank referenced for. It was with regards to trans people. It was that whole they're 20 times more likely to commit suicide than non-trans people, which of course, if you actually read the study, it's like, but only on people that received gender-affirming surgery before 1989. After that, it was about equal. But they always ignore that second part and are just like, 20 times more likely to commit suicide. And he clearly got it from Frank, because he was going through it exactly the same way Frank does. But he tried to make it look like he got it from the study itself, except the study's behind a paywall and he doesn't know how to get around that. So like he put a screenshot up of a graph from the study that did not show anything even remotely relevant to what he was talking about, but because that is the only graph that you can see without getting past the paywall. And it was hilarious.
That's comedy gold, honestly.
Yeah, it was fun, but yeah. Anyway, next tweet. Jack Poso says, did anyone else notice how during the debates last year you could sort of tell what Trump was going to say right before he said it? It's like, so for the most part, I'm going to say, yeah, that's because he's predictable as fuck, because he only has a couple of talking points that he harps on repeatedly. However, I will say, I did not see they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats coming.
Remember, if I have to lie to get you to believe me, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If I have to lie to get people to listen to me.
Well, that was Vance.
I know that was Vance, but
we're talking about Trump.
He speaks as much as a representative for Trump as he does for himself. That is part and parcel to being the vice president.
Yeah, but also I found so later on I think he was just joking with this. He wasn't actually trying to say that like, oh, he's so powerful that because there was an excerpt from, I don't know whether it was a book or news article, but like someone that apparently was involved in the Trump debate preparation sessions. They said that at one point he was just like, I don't need to do this. I don't need these questions. I have the best thoughts. I have the greatest thoughts. And so I can just like, you'll just know what I'm thinking by me thinking it. I don't have to. And so then they just sat there in stony silence for like half an hour. I don't know how true that is, but like, this is the guy that suggested bombing a hurricane. This is the guy that suggested injecting bleach to cure COVID.
Not bombing a hurricane. Nuking a hurricane. Because
to be fair, that one also has a somewhat dubious source, but like he was on camera saying you should inject bleach, or we want to test injecting bleach to get rid of COVID, or just shoving lights up your ass. Obviously not in those exact words, but like that's what he was getting at. And like then there's the whole Sharpie thing where it's like, oh, I said that the hurricane was going to go here, but the weather report doesn't agree with me, so I'm just going to Sharpie it out because I can't be wrong. So it's like, he's a fucking idiot. He thought that passing that cognitive test that like is complete, like there is no grade on it. It's just pass fail, and if you fail, you probably have dementia. And he like thinks that him passing that test means that he got the best grade ever. They say that nobody's ever done as good as I have, and you know I've got the best cognitive shape anyone's ever seen. You're like, I can remember 5 words like woman, man, person, camera, TV. He's like clearly just listing things he can say because he can't actually think of 5 words. Oh man, he's such a fucking idiot. So like, yeah, it's entirely believable that he thought that he could like force his thoughts into other people's heads through sheer willpower.
Unfortunately, for the people that are his constituents, he does have enough charisma and he does know how to say the things that they want him to say, that there is a layer of truth to the you'll know what I'm going to say.
Are you looking forward to the pounding Trump shower again?
But no, what I hate is that there is a layer of truth to his constituents knowing what he's going to say, because that layer of truth is he's going to say what will make them like him more, whatever that thing happens to be. And he's been doing it for fucking years.
Yeah, that comes back to the earlier thing where he didn't used to be anti-trans. He was like, I wouldn't say he was like an ally by any stretch of the imagination, but like, wasn't it his beauty pageant where like had the first trans woman win?
I don't remember because I never paid attention.
I think that's what it was. Like, and he actually like was promoting that, like he was using that as promotion material back then. And I think this was like 2014. So this is not like years and years and years before he ran for president. I might be wrong on that. Double check that. Don't just believe me for what I'm saying. But like, it wasn't until it became politically advantageous for him to hate trans people that he started hating trans people.
Right, because he's for all the things that he is a politician above all else. Mm-hmm. Because a politician is somebody who says what they need to say in order to make it seem like they are serving their constituents in order to get re-election. A politician is, by definition, just somebody who is doing what they can to win a popularity contest because that is their job. Now, granted, that is not to diminish how good the good that politicians can do for society. There's lots of good that people like AOC and Bernie Sanders have done to make shit not horrible for their constituents. Raphael Warnock's been doing a lot of good work over here. But at the end of the day, there is a reason why there are memes upon memes upon memes about there being no difference between a politician and a liar. Okay,
so starting in 2012, he repeatedly celebrated the transgender woman named Jenna Talikova for participating in a Canadian pageant. He praised the winner of the Miss USA pageant for saying that transgender women should be allowed to compete. He ended the ban on transgender participants in the Miss Universe pageant that he owned. Yeah, so like, I wouldn't say he was an ally by any stretch of the imagination, because an actual ally wouldn't turn around and throw trans people under the bus when it became advantageous for them. Looking at you, Target. But he was not anti-trans. He thought it was good for business to be pro-trans.
Yeah, rainbow capitalism is rainbow capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Again, looking at you, Target. So, yeah, if you want any clearer of a demonstration that he doesn't actually, like, I don't think he has any beliefs. He's just a blank slate saying what he thinks will be best for him.
Whatever that happens to be at the time.
Yeah. Oh, Sean McDowell. I felt a little bit sad for him here. He says, question for atheists. I'm making a YouTube video and hoping 100 atheists will respond to this question. Is there anything about the world that gives you pause and makes you think there might be a God? Please forward this to atheists who can help. It's got one response. And like, I mean, granted, it was just posted today, only a few hours ago, so it might get more, but it still made me a little bit sad.
The atheists don't want to talk to you, Sean.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I could think of, like, so as many videos as I have talking about, is that response a no? I actually don't know what the response was, because it did that Twitter thing where, like, when I clicked on the tweet to see what the responses were, it just, no, I clicked on it to see whether, but the response wasn't visible. It's like, I don't know why that happens, but that happens sometimes. I've noticed it a lot. It might be someone that blocked me. It might be someone that I blocked. It might be someone that No, because then you'd see the thing saying like, "Oh, you blocked this account. Do you want to see it? Yes or no?" So it might be someone who blocked me. I don't know. Might be a response that used the word cis and so is hidden from users. I don't know, but yeah. So if there's anything that makes me think there might be a god, it would be the origin of the universe. But that is based 100% in my not having a fucking clue how that works. Like, I've explained various cosmological models on my channel. I don't understand any of them. I'm just repeating things that other people say. That's why I have sources pop up when I say it. But like, that's just an argument from ignorance. And that's not a reason to actually believe in anything. How about you, Cirrus?
I'm gonna be honest. My biggest issue is that I would have to see something, and there would need to be a greater chance that that thing is because of a god specifically, that it couldn't be explained by something else just as well, if not better. So there's not really a whole lot of stuff that I can think of that actually gives me pause to think that there might be a god.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's Naramda how beginning work? I don't know, therefore God. Yeah, that's the argument. That is the cosmological argument in a nutshell. And that's why, like, yeah, I get the appeal of it because, like, I want there to be an explanation and I want to be able to understand that explanation. But I am not a theoretical physicist. So, like, no matter how many articles I read about it, no matter how many papers I read about it, I am not going to understand any of the cosmological models. And so I can see the appeal of like a simple answer that I can understand. But my not understanding the answers that we do have does not mean that the one that I can understand is actually a valid contender. And given the fact that the people that do understand these cosmological models don't seem to be proposing the idea of a god at any point in any of their models, suggests to me that there is no reason to think that a god was involved.
Yeah, the biggest problem when you're looking at things like, hey, what's the likelihood that life could have come up, as an example, because like that's one that a lot of people tend to point to for why God definitely exists.
Yeah, but see, the abiogenesis is like that again. That's like there's a bunch of unanswered questions. Science doesn't have all the answers here, but like we know that there are self-replicating molecules. We know that self-replicating molecules can arise spontaneously in the right circumstances. We know that like we know enough about how life would have had to have started that like the idea that it was a god rather than just chemicals working in ways that we know that chemicals work, it's like that one doesn't hold water for me, unlike the cell membrane.
What I was gonna say is my issue with the how unlikely is it that this happened is that I play games like D&D, I play games like World of Warcraft, I play games that I play Magic the Gathering. All games that have some form of mechanic that requires chance-based things. Mm-hmm. And unlikely things happen
all the
time. Every hand you draw in any given deck of cards, whether it be a Magic deck or like an actual regular set of 52 playing cards, any hand you draw is a statistically unlikely hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the hand you draw happened.
Mm-hmm.
It is nonetheless the hand you have. And because it's nonetheless the hand you have, I can't say that it's any more or less special than the others unless we are playing a game where that particular hand matters for some reason. Having a royal flush available in your hand only matters if you happen to be playing a game where a royal flush is important. Otherwise, it is as statistically significant as any other hand you possibly could do.
I have on many occasions been playing Go Fish with the kids and drew a hand and was like, this hand would be killer if I was playing poker.
Yeah, if I was playing a different game entirely, then this hand certainly has more merit than what it has right now. Or like I don't have to go further into that particular analogy. It's literally just it's pointing out that we assign value to our current circumstance entirely post hoc. We assign all that value after the fact.
And I do like that analogy, but then there's also the fact that like, oh, well, what are the odds that life would happen? They're astronomical. Guess what the odds are? Like, guess how many planets there are in the universe?
An
astronomical number. Guess how many of those are life supporting? Or not life supporting. In the habitable zone, also an astronomical number.
Yeah, there's a lot of planets in various Goldilocks zones. Like we know that we can see some of them, and some of them look really fucking Earth-like. The ones that we can actually see.
What's really funny about that is that occasionally you'll get an apologist who like they will acknowledge that we find exoplanets and that some of them look like they might potentially be habitable, like they're in the right zone or whatever, but then they'll talk about how like, oh yeah, but all the exoplanets we're finding are like the really big ones that like the gravity would be crushing and wouldn't like life wouldn't be possible
on. Would be crushing like, for us.
Okay, well you know, just set that aside and say like, okay, life as we know it is the only life that's possible. Let's just grant that as a premise.
Because we're only working with carbon based.
Yeah, so let's just grant that as a premise. It's a stupid premise, but let's just pretend. But like, we're looking for planets around objects that are so far away that like it can be hundreds of times the size of our sun, and yet it looks like just a little tiny pinprick of light. Which ones do you think we're going to find first? The biggest ones, obviously. So like, of course, the ones that we found are going to be bigger. We are statistically more likely to find those ones, but also like, I forget the paper, but I think like within 100 light year circumference of Earth, we found something like 40 planets in their stars' habitable zones. And so like from that, it has been determined that like probably most stars have a planet in their habitable zone. Now, is it an Earth-like planet? Is it a super Jupiter? Could be either. Actually, the way solar systems form, it is more likely that the big gas giants would migrate in towards the center of the solar system and knock any of the smaller planets out of the habitable zone. So, like, that is another point against life. However, clearly it's possible for that not to happen because we live in a solar system where that did not happen, and the universe is a goddamn big place. So...
And
the odds that it's the anthropic principle. The odds that we are unique in the universe is just astronomically low. Isn't there an equation to figure out how many planets have life? Yeah, it's the what's it called? Not the Fermi paradox.
Yeah, Fermi paradox is why life hasn't visited us.
Yeah. God damn it. Drake equation, that's the one. That's not so much an equation as a thought experiment. Because, like, for that, it's like, assume there are X number of stars with a planet in their habitable zone, and assume that X number of those stars, those planets are Earth-like, and assume that, like, so, like, it's all of these...
Oh, I thought the Drake equation was a way to figure out how to get your career back after getting eviscerated at the Super Bowl.
So my partner introduced me to Schitt's Creek. Have you seen Schitt's Creek?
I have not seen Schitt's Creek. I have not seen Schitt's Creek. Creek. God, I suck at this.
There's an episode near the beginning where like so the background story is this rich family whose business manager embezzled a bunch of money and ran off to another country, and they repossessed all of their possession, like all of their stuff. But then they're like, oh, but the government decided to allow you to have this one thing that you bought, and this one thing was a town called Schitt's Creek. And
okay.
Yeah, so they go live there, and so it's like, I used to be rich and famous, and now I'm living in squalor. And
but you own a town.
Yeah, but it's a hick town, and they have to stay in the motel or whatever. I don't know the logistics. I haven't watched enough of it yet. But like,
you own a town.
One of the episodes is like the daughter's boyfriend was supposed to like rescue her from that and take her back to the high life or whatever, and she was going to go live with him. But like, he canceled on her so that he could go to one of Diddy's white parties. And like that joke hits different now. That joke hits a little different in this day and age. Like both my partner and I just like look at each other like, oh yeah, she dodged a bullet there.
Dating a pedo.
Yeah. Okay. Next up. Ooh, that was the end.
That was the end.
That was the end.
We made pretty good time today, actually.
Yeah. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
it because
shit.
you're...
So.
Yeah, that's entirely fair.
Yeah, so even with the extra half a news item when I promised you one fewer news items than normal.
Jesus.
Okay. Are you still streaming after this?
I am still streaming after this.
Okay, I shall raid you.
Okay. I appreciate the raid, good sir.
Okay. I was going to press a button. I forget what button it was. No, I was going to have my finger over the end credits button so that I didn't have to look for it later. This kind of defeats that purpose. All right. Anyway, have a good night, everyone. As always, fuck off.